Only one event must happen before the tribulation begins. Not 10. Not a series of complicated signs. One event. And when you truly understand what that event is, and how close we are to it right now, it will change the way you see everything happening in this world. Because the moment that event is fulfilled, the timeline does not slow down. It does not gradually shift. It breaks open. To understand why the world feels like it's tearing itself apart right now, you have to look beyond politics, beyond headlines, beyond what the media is telling you, and go directly to the words of the Messiah himself. Because he already told us. When his disciples came to him privately on the Mount of Olives, they asked the most important question any human being has ever asked. What will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the world? And Jesus did not avoid the question. He did not speak in riddles. He answered with absolute clarity. He spoke of wars, nations rising against nations, kingdoms against kingdoms, famines, pestilences, earthquakes in different places, the exact chaos we are watching unfold right now. But then, he says something that almost no one pays attention to. See that you are not troubled. For all these things must happen, but the end is not yet. Did you catch that? The wars are real. The disasters are real. The fear is real. But Jesus said, that is not the trigger. These are not the finish line. They are the warning signs, the contractions, before the birth. Right. Now, I want you to pause for a second. Do you believe the wars you're seeing today are leading us to the final days? Type yes or no in the comments. Let's see what people really think. And if you want the truth clearly explained without confusion, make sure you follow this channel. Because what you're about to hear next, most people have never understood. So if wars are not the trigger, if disasters are not the trigger, then what is? What is the one event that flips the switch? In verse 14, Jesus gives the answer, and this changes everything. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, for a witness unto all nations. And then shall the end come, not before, not during, after. That one sentence is the key to the entire timeline. The gospel must reach every nation, and only then the end begins. But here's where most people misunderstand this completely. When Jesus said nations, he was not talking about countries like we see on a modern map. He wasn't talking about borders. The word he used means something far more specific. It means people groups, distinct tribes, languages, cultures, groups of people who share identity, history, and heritage. Which means this: it is not enough for the gospel to exist in a country. It must reach every tribe, every language, every people group on earth, every single one. For over 2,000 years, this mission has been unfolding. From a small group in Jerusalem, to the Roman Empire, across Europe, into the Americas, deep into Africa, and into the farthest regions of Asia. And now, something incredible is happening. For the first time in human history, we are approaching the final remaining unreached people groups. The mission is almost complete. And as the gospel gets closer to the finish line, something else is happening at the same time. The world is becoming more unstable, more chaotic, more divided, almost like something is pushing back. Because the closer we get to completing that one event, the more pressure builds, like a dam about to break. What you're seeing in the world right now is not random. The conflicts, the confusion, the sudden rise in global tension. It's not just political. There is something deeper happening, something spiritual. Because once that final people group hears the gospel, everything changes. The timeline accelerates, and the world moves into the most intense period in human history. And this is the part that should make you stop and really think. Because once that one event happens, there is no turning back, no delay, no pause, only acceleration. And what comes next is exactly what Jesus warned about. Because the very next thing Jesus says is not comfort. It's a warning so serious. He tells the reader to stop and understand it. When you see the abomination of leave, desolation, spoken of by the prophet Daniel, standing in the holy place, one verse separates the completion of the gospel mission from the beginning of the darkest period in human history. This is not symbolic. This is not metaphor. This is a real event, a moment when a world leader steps into the most sacred place and commits an act so blasphemous, it shocks heaven itself. History already gave us a preview. A ruler once invaded the temple, defiled it, desecrated it. But Jesus said, that was only a shadow. What is coming will be far worse. Because in the final fulfillment, this leader does not just desecrate the temple. He exalts himself above God. He sits where only God should sit and declares himself to be God. This is not politics anymore. This is open rebellion against the creator of the universe. And in that moment, something breaks. A line is crossed that cannot be uncrossed. And what follows is what Jesus called the Great Tribulation, a period so severe, so intense, that he said nothing in all of history compares to it. Not the worst wars, not the greatest disasters, nothing. He said, if those days were not shortened, no human being would survive. Let that sink in. The survival of humanity itself would not be possible without divine intervention. During this time, a global system rises. Control becomes absolute. Economics, movement, survival, all tied to one decision: loyalty or resistance. There is no middle ground, no neutrality. Every person must choose, and that choice has eternal consequences. But right in the middle of all this darkness, there is something people often overlook, a warning that came long before the chaos. Because before Jesus spoke about wars, before he described the tribulation, he said something first. Take heed that no one deceives you. That was his first warning. Not war, not disaster, deception. Because deception is the enemy's greatest weapon, not just to destroy, but to delay. If the gospel must reach every people group, then the easiest way to slow that down is to confuse the very people meant to carry it, to distort the truth, to divide the church, to replace the real message with something false. And suddenly, the mission stalls. That is why we are seeing so much confusion today. So many voices, so many teachings, so many versions of truth. And not all of them are real. Some sound right, feel right, even look spiritual, but lead people away from the words truth. Because the final deception will not look obvious. It will be convincing, powerful, even accompanied by signs that make people believe it must be real. And that is why Jesus warned, even the decept was faithful, could be deceived. if they are not grounded in the truth. So what protects you? Not intelligence, not experience, not religion. Only one thing: a deep, unshakable love for the truth. Not just knowing it, loving it, holding on to it, no matter what. Because in the end, this is not just about prophecy. It's not just about timelines or events. It's about you, where you stand, what you believe, and whether you are ready before that one event is fulfilled. Because once the gospel reaches every nation, everything changes. The restraint is removed, and the world moves forward into exactly what was written. No delay, no uncertainty, only fulfillment. But here is the hope. This mission will be completed, not by chance, not by human effort alone, but because God Himself has guaranteed it. The message will reach every people group, every language, every nation. The trigger will be pulled. The only question left is not if it will happen, but this: are you ready when it does? If this message opened your eyes, don't ignore it. Share this with someone who needs to hear the truth. And in the comments, tell me this: what do you think is the greatest threat right now? Is it the chaos we see in the world, or the deception most people don't even realize is happening? And if you want more truth like this, clear, direct, and real, subscribe now, because we are closer than most people think.